slap is when someone with a penis slaps it across someone's face.
Oh, shit. Here we go again.
Here's why people have this sort of narrative that this is almost like a social experiment of a game. All right, we got to talk about this. So I couldn't help but notice yesterday the content that the game and the community received were, well, there were two main sort of SBCs, right? Yeah, I'm not sure where to start this, but so I've been recording a bit of a skill move tutorial. I have this intention to make a 7-part series, and I'm 2 episodes in that I've uploaded and recorded. And I thought to myself, I'm only going to interrupt this series and have to pause on that regularly scheduled programming if there's a good reason to. And I really was kind of hoping that there wouldn't be a good reason to sort of pivot away from it for a day. But here we are. Yesterday at content time, I and many other people who play this game couldn't believe what EA did as far as SBCs. So we're going to gloss over that for those of you who don't know. But I'm sure a majority of you are aware of this by now. So there were 2 main SBCs yesterday. And behind me, we have one of them because it is a 1-day SBC that has already expired. And we're going to take a look at it. So earn a pack containing 4 rare gold player items that are 80 or higher, and 1 is guaranteed to be 85 or higher. Now, that in and of itself is not the issue. The issue is that it is an 81 rated SBC, but there's a big trick to this. And that is that you have to make an 81 rated squad with only 9 players, which actually turns into a squad that has about 7, I think, 84s and 2 83s, which is basically more like an 84 rated squad minus a couple 84s.
We have been hoodwinked, bamboozled, led astray, run amok, and flat out deceived.
And the reason why I think this is insane by EA is that they don't almost ever release SBCs like this. I don't know who in the organization is green lighting these decisions. I can't really wrap my head around why their resources, like their mental energy and efforts, go into something like this. That's kind of really why I'm making this, okay? What system is in place for these absolute buffoons to, like, someone has to come up with the idea, right? Either like an executive or a middle management person or just some frontline worker at the company. I don't know where it originates from, but once the idea is sort of put out there, they obviously have to like have some sort of meeting and agree that they're going to go through with this. And then they have to hire the coders to actually code this into the game. And on top of that, here's why people have this sort of narrative that this is almost like a social experiment of a game. And I totally get where that comes from. That sentiment is a perfectly reasonable sentiment when you have examples like this, because not only is this an unusual SBC, but they released it to be completed a maximum of 1 time and it expired 24 hours later. This is purely, just to be clear, a test internally from the company. Whatever sort of group within the company came up with this and actually brought it from an idea into the actual game, there's only one motivating reason. It's not to reward players for playing their game at all, right? At a time where a lot of the player base is sort of leaving and quitting at unprecedented levels and either playing other games or doing something else with their lives, right? This company is releasing this pile of shit and serving that up to, the player base. And let me explain why this is basically manipulative. And that's really the main issue I have with it. Because what you could do, right? Some people, they want to complete all these types of packs, right? So they go in and they go, okay, 81 rating squad, big W. Sounds good to me. This is an actual upgrade pack. Wow. Once in a blue moon, EA actually, gives the player base some sort of even a small reward, even if it's a one-time thing. It's not going to break the game. You're not going to be packing tons of Mbappes or Vinny's or any special players. You don't even see the promo players that are above, 6-figure coins in the first place. And what a lot of those people would have found out upon further analysis and attempts to complete the SBC is that it actually requires basically an 84 rated squad, which is a big difference compared to an 81 rated squad.
God damn it! You can't make this shit up!
And EA could have just made it an 84 rated squad for an 85 plus rated player, or even the same exact pack with a few 80 plus players thrown in there, right? But instead they choose to do something that's unnecessarily manipulative. There is no reason to waste resources creating a new way to complete an SBC. There's just simply no good reason for it, right? The only reason is to test the waters, and they have their own way of analyzing data, and they decide whether they want to pursue that further in the future. But the reason why this rubs people the wrong way, and by the way, this, obviously had a significantly bad like to dislike ratio. So you can see here, and I just want to make sure it shows here, right? So you can see that this has 600 or so likes and 1900 dislikes, right? And if you want to compare that to another SBC, for example, right, where it has 9 times the likes to dislikes, this is absolute garbage. And that's what people realized. Now, there was one other SBC that also came out at the same time yesterday, and that was the Centurions Crafting Upgrade SBC. Now, in a different way, this was arguably just as bad or worse or almost as bad. And I'll explain why, right? This had the same negative sentiment as the other SBC. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a moment here to see if I can find the objective associated with this. What I've done here is I've actually pulled up the SBC, because on this tab, I just have the group objective rewards, which I'm going to explain why I have this pulled up in a second. But if you take a quick look here, this has a similar ratio of likes versus dislikes, and for equally good reason. And the reason is not even about the SBC itself in this case, because if I scroll a little bit, you can see, okay, you get 3 75 plus rated players. Okay, in and of itself, it's not impressive, but it's not the end of the world, right? The issue lies here, and that is with the group rewards. So if you can see, the major group reward is a meaningless 82 plus times 5, which you get for completing it 100 times. And if you see behind me, you can, if you want to pause and sort of glance through the different completion levels, you're welcome to do that. But it's pretty easy to summarize because there's practically nothing there. And I've also pulled up here, which we're going to go back to in a moment, last year's. What I did is I took a moment to pull up last year's Centurions Crafting Upgrade reward, because this is the real reason why people are annoyed that this company does this kind of thing. They're not only lazy, right? This isn't even just a matter of laziness, because if it were just a matter of being outright lazy, they could have literally copy pasted the same exact set of rewards from last year, because this is the same exact objective in nature. Instead, what they do is they go, how can we make things worse? And to what degree can we make things as bad as possible for the players who are trying their best to play this game and get away with it? That is the absolute mindset, okay, at the EA headquarters. And what you will notice is that last year, if you want to, again, take a moment to analyze line by line what they gave, what you'll find is they basically offered a lot more to the community. And there's no reason this year for them to give noticeably less. And people are basically scratching their heads, wondering, why would a company who should be trying to make the sort of quality of life in their game as good as possible and have people actually look forward to any aspect of their game, right? You would think that's what a company should be doing, but EA has a very different intention, and it is very confusing at times for people, right? because here you have a variety of packs, and then in the later stages you get an 83 by 3, an 83 by 3, an 84 by 2, an 80 by 10, right? On top of that, I don't know if I can see here if there was a bonus group objective. Okay, there may have been, there may not have been. I can't see that in this article, but we'll save that as one small piece of information we don't have. But when you look here, you get every 20 completions instead of every 10. You get a piddly, 78 times 2, 78 3, 78 5. And by the way, right, these 78 rating guarantees might as well just be 75 plus. It's practically meaningless. And then 80 by 3, and then an 81 by 3 at 100 completions. And then the bonus you get is an 82 plus times 5. It's just very bizarre. It's a bizarre step backward. And the only other plausible theory I have is that other than the company just being absolutely corrupt from the top down, for whoever has influence over these things, there's got to be some level of corruption and manipulation at the forefront of the decision making, right? Of course, the minimum wage employees that are actually coding the game, they're not corrupt and they're not manipulative. They're not the ones who have any influence over decisions like this. They just sort of follow out the orders of sort of the generals, right? They're just basically the troops, right? And the only other explanation I can even imagine is that because they introduced SBC storage, right, where you can store up to 100 players, right, they maybe are thinking that because people have an extra, 10 to 50 random trash gold cards at most, that it makes it a small percentage easier to complete this sort of objective. And therefore, because it makes it the tiniest bit easier, they want to nerf the rewards for it. But in reality, even if you had 50 duplicate trash players in your SBC storage, that allows you to complete this 5 more times, and you have to complete it 100 times. So even in a best case scenario for a given player, this hardly makes a dent in this objective. And for most people, they're probably already using those types of cards and other stuff maybe, right? Like marquee matchups or whatever it might be. So in reality, most people don't have even a small percentage of this ready to go in their storage, right? And I'm only purely talking about the SBC storage here because that's the only real difference for an SBC like this year versus last year, right? And the last thing I'll say about this is that in general, especially when the rewards are this bad for the group awards, this type of SBC is really a time sink more than anything. Of course, you can pack some decent fodder, and if you are lucky, you might be able to pack something usable. You have to understand that for every one person who packs something usable, even doing 100 of these, that there are multiple times that in terms of players who don't get anything usable. Now, everyone's going to get some bits of fodder along the way, but arguably it's not worth it. And I'll just mention maybe one more thing to put this in perspective. Right now, gold cards are approximately 400 to 500 coins, right? Let's call it 500 for simple numbers here for a second. And if you complete this SBC 100 times, now granted, the vast majority of what you should be putting in is going to be untradeable, but chances are if you're someone completing the group objective, you have to spend coins to complete it. So let's just think of the coin equivalent for a moment. I know that majority are going to try to complete it as much untradeable as possible, but you're still burning your club, and most people aren't going to have enough to do all 100 from purely untradeable items. It's virtually impossible to do that unless you're very patient and you've been stocking up a lot of those cards and not using them for other SBCs. So 100 completions, you need 11 players, right? So that's 1,100 players. And each player costs about, let's say, about 500 coins. You are looking at about 500,000-ish coins worth of players. And what do you get in return for that? You get 100 packs that are 3 gold players, most of which are going to be trash that you're just going to recycle into this, and a few of which are going to be decent rated fodder, and 0 to maybe 1 or 2 of them are going to be usable. For a lot of people, the number for that is going to be 0 usable players.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man? Bro, I'm out, man. That nigga's tripping.
Inevitably, what EA is also banking on, right, is first of all, it's a guaranteed time sink, and they love that, right? As a company with shareholders, that is the best case scenario for them. They want to, create as many time sinks as they can in the game. And that's why the menus are trash. That's why, an application like Pale Tools has a community that uses it, because EA purposefully chooses not to improve sort of the menu quality of life in the game. And then on top of that, they're hoping that it's not only a time sink, but that it's also a coin sink, right? Because when you realize that you've ran out of fodder in your club by the, 50th, 80th completion, whatever it may be, and then you just want to get the SBC done, or you may not get it done in time, that's what they're hoping for. They're hoping that you feel obligated to buy the remainder of players, and then you all of a sudden you've sunk 100k coins, 200k coins, whatever the number may be.
I am never going to financially recover from this.
To complete the reward, because it's sort of in the average player's nature to want to complete a group set of rewards. So if you're already majority of the way into it, it's kind of like a sunk cost issue where you feel like you've already committed most of the way there. You got to finish the job, and then you're going to pay whatever coins are necessary to do that. And EA know, right? Don't get it twisted here. EA knows, based on, their analysis of player behavior. I mean, they invest more in that than they do in servers or gameplay or development, right? Of the actual game itself, right? They know their player behavior from one end of the spectrum to the other and everything in between, right? So they know exactly what they're doing when they're doing this. That's pretty much all I wanted to highlight today. We will be back to the other episodes of this sort of skill move overview tutorial that I have, because I do want to, complete that. I think it's worthwhile. That's my goal. There's a few gems in there for me, and I'm the one who's noted these skill moves, and I use a lot of them in my gameplay, and that's part of what's made me a better player, being able to get multiple rank 2s, which I couldn't really have expected earlier on when I first started playing this game. So yeah, if you're interested, I know a lot of you are probably going to prefer these types of videos calling EA out, and in a way, I also enjoy obviously making these videos because it's the right thing to do in my opinion. But again, like I've mentioned in the past video, it's not my only intention to make videos like this. I want to look at different ways to enhance our experience playing this game. That's my intention. I think there's a few different ways to do that, and I think highlighting some underutilized skill moves is one way to sort of serve the people who are watching these videos. So with that being said, I hope you're doing well, hope you're taking care of yourself, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.